time for another Channel Futures Fast Chat. I'm Craig Galbraith, Editorial Director for Channel Futures. Happy to welcome in Jonathan Nguyen, Field CISO with Fortinet. Jonathan, how are you today?
Great, thanks for having me here today.
Absolutely glad to have you. So let's start off by talking about how the pandemic has changed IT and cybersecurity. What do you see as the new normal?
Yeah, I think the new normal is going to be a much more distributed computing environment. The pandemic really forced us to do a couple of things. One, to support a much more distributed remote workforce. 90% of our staff are working from home in remote locations now, as before the pandemic was about 6%. The other thing it forced us to do was to push and accelerate the adoption of cloud compute, specifically multi-cloud. And so what you see now from an IT environment is a much more distributed, much more complex environment. And now we're beginning to see things like edge compute come onto the line, which accelerates operations. And then from the threat side of the house, you know, the threat actors have only gotten more sophisticated, in many ways more effective than ever before.
Yeah, so what are some other things that folks should consider for security as they migrate to the cloud?
Yeah, so migrating to cloud isn't just a lift and shift of the compute from your data centers to a series of public clouds. It really requires a rethinking of the architecture, because in the old days, we used to build out our own platforms, our own infrastructure in our own data centers. But as we shift that compute to someone else's cloud, someone else's platform, someone else's infrastructure, we also need to think about the networking as well as the security, because all three elements need to work together. The application performance, the wide area network, the networking access management, as well as security to deliver those business outcomes and those enhanced customer experiences. The biggest lesson learned is that you really can't think of networking, security, and compute as separate operating silos any longer.
Yeah, so if there were one thing or a couple of things you wanted to have IT teams know for sure to leave this conversation with, what would those be?
So I think they should try to find ways of consolidating their architecture to reduce complexity, but really think about the networking and security in conjunction with that movement towards cloud adoption. Because in order to be successful moving forward, you really need to ensure that, one, you can support a zero trust security strategy across your enterprise, which means you have to make sure that only the right people and users can access the right applications or workloads. Second, you need to implement SD-WAN, because we have more edges than ever. You know, users are in remote locations, branch offices, etc. They're no longer being backhauled back to a data center, then out into the internet. They're reaching directly across. So SD-WAN has to be integrated with the security component. And then as they move to the clouds, make sure that it's the same look and feel, that platform approach across the LAN, WAN, and cloud edges. And then you begin to see a lot more successes across the board.
SD-WAN, security, cloud, good stuff. Jonathan, thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Always, thank you.